Imagine this. You drift into sleep as the moon casts its pale gaze through the curtains. A soft sigh escapes your chest. Your hands rest calmly across your stomach, your heart beating its familiar rhythm. The night is quiet, peaceful, nothing feels unusual. But by morning, your body will be cold, lifeless. The rhythm will have stopped. No warning, no pain, no final thoughts or last words, just silence. You went to bed a living man, 71 years of memories, of choices, of accumulated wisdom, and never woke up. The world calls it dying peacefully in your sleep. But there is nothing peaceful about being stolen away in the dark, unaware and unprepared. It's not peace, it's a vanishing. And the most chilling part? It could have been prevented. Not by some experimental drug, not by high-tech monitors or expensive surgeries, but by avoiding 4 simple bedtime habits. Patterns so ordinary, so widely accepted, they're practically invisible. You've probably done them for years, maybe even last night. So common, no one questions them. So deadly, they should terrify you. But here's the real question. How does something become deadly by becoming normal? How can something as harmless as a nightly ritual, an innocent snack, a late show, a sip of something warm, be the silent architect of your final breath? The answer lies not in the habits themselves, but in something deeper, something primal. You see, sleep is not just rest. It's a surrender. It's the most vulnerable thing we do. Every night, you give up control of your body and mind, trusting they'll still be there when you return. But what if that trust is misplaced? What if you've been feeding the very forces that will one day make sure you never wake up? There's a man. His name was Edward. He wasn't sick. No chronic diseases. No complaints. He had dinner with his daughter, watched a rerun of an old Western he loved, and texted his grandson a picture of a silly cartoon. He chuckled, brushed his teeth, laid down. He never got up. The coroner said, natural causes. That's what they always say when the cause is invisible. But what is natural about dying at 71 in your sleep with no warning? Isn't that still young in today's world? Isn't that still too soon? Edward's life didn't end because of age. It ended because of a chain of tiny, unconscious choices, daily habits that slowly rewired his body systems, stressed his heart, disturbed his circadian rhythm, and taxed his nervous system, all culminating in a quiet cardiac arrest. In his sleep, alone. And the world kept turning. Now pause for a second. When did we start confusing normal with safe? There's a tragedy in how we age, not in the wrinkles or the gray hairs, but in how society teaches us to expect decline. We are told that fatigue is normal, that poor sleep is normal, that waking up groggy or needing naps is all just part of getting older. But what if those things aren't part of aging at all? What if they're symptoms, warnings? Cries from a body that's trying to adapt to patterns it was never designed to endure. You've probably felt it too. The heaviness when you lie down, as if gravity pulls harder with age. The racing thoughts that keep your eyes wide long after lights are out. The sudden wake-ups at 2 a.m. with no reason. The sense of being tired but never rested. And deep down, beneath the daily busyness and routine distractions, you might have wondered, what's really happening to me at night? What if the most dangerous things aren't the things you see coming, but the ones you never think to question? This is not about fear-mongering. This is about clarity, awakening, reclaiming your nights before they become your last. Because here's the brutal paradox. The very things you do to comfort yourself before bed may be the things that ensure you never wake again. Let that sink in. Your evening snack, your nightcap, that little treat before you turn in. The way you unwind, the lighting in your room, the thoughts you allow to fester as your eyes close. All of it, quietly steering you toward a destination you never chose. Edward never knew, But you can. And this isn't just about avoiding death. It's about reclaiming your life, fully, vividly, and with intention, because aging isn't a slow descent. It's a sharpening, a distillation of everything you've ever been into something clearer, wiser, more powerful. But only if you refuse to live on autopilot. So, here's the great question, the one you can't unhear. What if the most dangerous place isn't a battlefield or a hospital, but your own bed after the age of 70, if you're not paying attention? Now it's time to pay attention. In the next part, we'll dive into the invisible mechanics, the biology, the psychology, the hidden stressors behind this quiet epidemic, why it happens, how it hides, and why no one talks about it until it's too late. But for now, ask yourself, what have you normalized that might be stealing your future, one night at a time? You were never meant to die in your sleep. Not like that. Not from a heart that simply stops. Not from a breath that forgets to return. Yet, we've come to accept this fate as peaceful. But what if it's not peaceful at all? What if it's a glitch in the system, your body, trying to scream through whispers, silenced by rituals you thought were harmless? To understand how we get here, you need to look beneath the surface, into the mechanics of a body after 70, the psychology of unwinding, and the paradox of comfort that becomes the very thing that betrays you. Because aging isn't the cause of deterioration. Adaptation to poor conditions is. Let's talk about your nervous system. After 70, your autonomic nervous system, the control center of unconscious functions, becomes more sensitive. Your vagus nerve, responsible for slowing the heart and calming the body, starts to lose tone. Your sympathetic system, the fight-or-flight response, begins to dominate more frequently, even when there's no danger. Why does that matter? Because bedtime, for most people, isn't a time of rest anymore. It's a time of residual tension, emotional, mental, and physical, all accumulating and expressing themselves in silence. And it all begins with something you probably thought was innocent. Habit number 1, late-night snacking. What harm could a small bowl of cereal, a cookie, or a slice of toast do before bed? Here's what they never tell you. Every bite you take triggers a cascade of metabolic responses. Your insulin spikes. Your digestion activates. Your liver starts processing glucose. Your body temperature rises slightly. Your heart rate goes up. And most importantly, your melatonin, the hormone responsible for sleep onset, gets suppressed. Melatonin isn't just about sleep. It regulates your entire circadian rhythm. It also has antioxidant effects on your heart, brain, and mitochondria. Suppressing it with food close to bedtime throws your system into chaos. You're digesting when you should be regenerating, processing when you should be resting. And over time, this repeated confusion wears down your internal clock, your suprachiasmatic nucleus, to the point where it no longer knows when to tell your organs to sleep. Now mix that with habit number 2, alcohol before bed, the classic nightcap. It feels like it helps you relax, and technically it does. At first, alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, but only temporarily. Within hours, it disrupts REM sleep, raises cortisol levels, and causes microarousals, tiny wake-ups throughout the night that you don't consciously notice, but that prevent you from reaching deep restorative sleep stages. And guess what happens to your heart? Every time you shift between sleep stages, your heart adjusts. A young heart handles these transitions easily, but a heart over 70? Especially one under chronic sympathetic stress. That heart is walking a tightrope. Alcohol narrows that rope. Now, let's talk about something even more deceptive. Habit number 3, ruminative thinking before bed. This isn't physical, but it might be the deadliest of them all. You lie down. Your body is tired, but your mind is awake. It plays loops of old regrets, future fears, arguments you never resolved, and questions you can't answer. You think it's just part of getting older, reflecting on life. But your brain doesn't treat it philosophically. It treats it as danger. And in response, it releases stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine. Your blood pressure subtly climbs. Your heart beats slightly faster. Your digestion slows, your muscles tighten, and worst of all, your inflammatory cytokines rise. Over time, this becomes a pattern. Your body learns to associate bedtime with threat, and it activates your sympathetic system nightly. This is how psychological stress becomes physiological death. And it leads us to habit number 4, exposure to artificial light and screens. Screens don't just emit light, they emit blue light, which directly inhibits melatonin production through the retina's ganglion cells. Even dim lighting, like a bedside lamp, can delay your sleep cycle by up to 90 minutes. But more importantly, artificial light tricks your body into believing it's still day. Your temperature doesn't drop, your heart doesn't slow, your body stays in a mild, wakeful state. So even when you sleep, you're not sleeping. You're drifting, floating between conscious and unconscious without reaching the deep stages of sleep that repair your heart, cleanse your brain of plaque, and reset your immune system. This is why, by the time you're 70, these small habits turn fatal. It's not one big event. It's cumulative erosion. A nightly corrosion of systems that were designed to restore you, but now confuse you. Let's put this in perspective. The Framingham Heart Study, which has tracked cardiovascular health for over 70 years, found that poor sleep quality is an independent risk factor for nocturnal sudden cardiac death, especially in people over 65. And the risk increases dramatically when combined with elevated nighttime blood pressure, disrupted circadian rhythm, and untreated sleep apnea. And what triggers those exact things? Late eating, alcohol, rumination, blue light, all 4. They're not just habits. They are signals, messages your body listens to and responds to faithfully. So now the paradox becomes clearer. The more you seek comfort at night, through snacks, screens, or mindless mental loops, the more you deprive your body of the very thing it needs to survive. Deep, restorative, unbroken rest. But why do we hold on to these habits? Because they soothe us. They're familiar. They give us a sense of control in a world that often feels overwhelming, especially as we age. The world becomes louder, lonelier, and these small rituals feel like companions. But not all comfort is healing, and not all soothing is safety. The greatest danger isn't the heart attack itself. It's the normalization of patterns that slowly ensure it will come, at night, without warning and without goodbye. But now you see it. You've peeled back the curtain. The question is, what has all this cost you already? And more importantly, what is it silently stealing from you tonight? There's something terrifying about what doesn't scream. The body never shouts as it begins to unravel. It whispers. Subtle changes, nearly imperceptible, folding into routine. A slightly earlier bedtime, a nap that creeps longer each afternoon. That grogginess you chalk up to age. The occasional skipped heartbeat you convince yourself is just stress. You don't notice the slow fade until you vanish. The 4 habits we explored, the late-night snacking, the drink before bed, the ruminative mind, the glow of artificial light, do not come bearing warnings. They feel too small to matter. But their consequences don't strike like lightning. They drip like water on stone. Over time, they carve through flesh and will, through cognition and spirit. What you wake up with is not death, but a half-life. A sleepwalking existence in which your mind dulls, your body betrays, and your heart becomes a ticking clock you can no longer hear. Let's begin with the mind. Sleep is not just rest for the body, it is cleansing for the brain. At night, your brain activates a system known as the glymphatic system, a kind of internal rinse that washes away neurotoxins and metabolic waste. One of the most dangerous of these is beta amyloid, the protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. If you disrupt sleep through any of the habits we've discussed, you interrupt this rinse cycle. Night after night, your brain doesn't detox, and the plaque builds. You begin forgetting names, walking into rooms and wondering why. You reread sentences, lose your train of thought, and at first you laugh it off. Everyone forgets things, right? But beneath the surface, a storm is brewing. Now add ruminative thinking to that toxic cocktail. When you lie in bed rehashing old fears, you not only trigger cortisol spikes, you train your brain to prioritize fear-based neural circuits. This hardwires your amygdala, the fear center, to grow stronger while shrinking the hippocampus, your memory center. So your brain becomes better at fearing and worse at remembering. You slowly trade clarity for vigilance, wisdom for worry, presence for paranoia. And no one tells you it's happening. Because it's so common, we call it normal aging. But what if it isn't normal? What if it's just cumulative neglect? Now let's talk about the heart. Nighttime is supposed to be when your heart rests. Your parasympathetic nervous system should dominate, guiding you into a low-pressure, low-pulse restorative state. But with disrupted circadian rhythms, that doesn't happen. Instead, you enter non-dipping blood pressure syndrome, a condition in which your nighttime blood pressure remains as high or higher than it was during the day. This stealth condition increases your risk of fatal heart events by 2 to 3 times, and you'll never feel it coming. You could go for a checkup, see that your blood pressure during the day is under control, and walk away unaware that it's at night your heart is fighting hardest, without you. Then there's your immune system. Deep sleep is when your body releases cytokines, small proteins that help regulate inflammation and infection. But if you're not sleeping deeply or not sleeping long enough, your immune response becomes erratic. You become more vulnerable to illness. Inflammation increases system-wide. Joints ache more. Recovery slows. Chronic conditions flare. Your body begins to mistake its own tissues as invaders. You start aging faster, not just on the outside, but in your cells. Telomeres, the protective caps on your chromosomes that shorten with age, begin to fray faster in people with poor sleep. This isn't metaphoric aging, it's molecular decay. And all the while, the habits seem small. Unrelated. Another cookie here, another glass of wine there, a few more minutes scrolling under the glow of your tablet. But here's what those few minutes cost. A 29% higher risk of metabolic syndrome, a 33% greater chance of developing type 2 diabetes, a 50% increased risk of nighttime heart attacks in those with erratic sleep cycles. These are not just statistics. They are echoes of lives, people who never knew the weight of their bedtime routine until it crushed them. Let's step back for a moment. We live in a society obsessed with productivity during the day and indulgence at night. We teach ourselves that if we've earned our relaxation, it doesn't matter what form it takes. We tell ourselves we deserve the glass of wine, the late snack, the brainless scrolling, because the day was hard. But what if that reward system is poisoned? What if the very act of unwinding is winding the noose? Our culture glorifies stimulation, news feeds, entertainment, consumption, but ignores regulation. We're never taught how to wind down in a way that honors the body's design. And so we mistake comfort for recovery. We think if we feel better in the moment, we must be healing. But comfort is not always kind, and ease is not always peace. This isn't just personal, it's societal. We design cities that never sleep. We glorify hustle culture that ignores rest. We shame naps, idolize caffeine, and treat exhaustion like a badge of honor. And our elders, those who need sleep the most, are often left navigating this chaos alone, left to patch together routines from old habits, misinformation, or emotional coping. We talk about dying of natural causes as if it's a gentle thing. But what's natural about a body so overstimulated, undernourished, and poorly regulated that it quietly gives out under the weight of its own confusion? Edward didn't choose those 4 habits. They were given to him, normalized, reinforced, and he's not alone. Millions of people go to bed tonight under the illusion of safety, telling themselves they've earned this rest, not realizing their bedtime routine is slowly becoming a ritual of erosion. And the most tragic part? They will never know what could have been, how sharp their minds could have stayed, how vibrant their mornings could have felt, how long their hearts might have carried them had they just been given the right map. But that map exists, and you're holding a piece of it now. So ask yourself again, how many of your daily comforts are quietly stealing your future? How much vitality have you lost, not through aging, but through unconscious repetition? And most importantly, what happens if you stop? Because there is a way out. And in the next section, you'll see exactly what that path looks like, not paved with self-denial, but with radical realignment, not built on discipline alone, but on freedom. It's not too late, even at 70, especially at 70. Now imagine this. It's 9:30 p.m. The lights are low. There's no TV humming in the background, no blue light bleeding from a phone screen. The kitchen is dark, no bowls in the sink, no crumbs on the counter. Your breath is slower now. You feel a stillness, not just in your body, but in your mind. A stillness that feels ancient, as if your cells remember something you've forgotten. This isn't a fantasy. This is what your body has been begging for, and it's not found in another prescription or a new mattress or the latest superfood. It begins with a rebellion against the quiet killers, against the cultural hypnosis that taught you your evenings are disposable, that sleep is passive, that comfort equals care. What you're about to discover is that breaking free doesn't mean depriving yourself. It means remembering yourself. Your biology is not broken. It's misdirected, and it's time to reprogram it. Let's start with the first act of rebellion. Sabah, sir. 1. Close the kitchen by sunset. This may sound radical, but it's actually biological alignment. After sundown, your metabolism begins to shift gears. Your insulin sensitivity drops. Your digestive system starts to power down. When you eat late at night, you're fighting your own design, forcing your body to digest when it should be repairing. Start small. Try a 12-hour fasting window, finish your last bite by 7 p.m., and eat breakfast after 7 a.m. Let your organs rest. Let your hormones recalibrate. Let your gut bacteria, yes, even they follow a circadian rhythm, repair themselves. This isn't restriction. This is liberation. Now, imagine this. It's 9:30 p.m. The lights are low. There's no TV humming in the background, no blue light bleeding from a phone screen. The kitchen is dark. No bowls in the sink, no crumbs on the counter. Your breath is slower now. You feel a stillness, not just in your body, but in your mind. A stillness that feels ancient, as if your cells remember something you've forgotten. This isn't a fantasy. This is what your body has been begging for, and it's not found in another prescription or a new mattress or the latest superfood. It begins with a rebellion against the quiet killers, against the cultural hypnosis that taught you your evenings are disposable, that sleep is passive, that comfort equals care. What you're about to discover is that breaking free doesn't mean depriving yourself. It means remembering yourself. Your biology is not broken. It's misdirected, and it's time to reprogram it. Let's start with the first act of rebellion. Sabot, sir. One, close the kitchen by sunset. This may sound radical, but it's actually biological alignment. After sundown, your metabolism begins to shift gears. Your insulin sensitivity drops. Your digestive system starts to power down. When you eat late at night, you're fighting your own design, forcing your body to digest when it should be repairing. Start small. Try a 12-hour fasting window, finish your last bite by 7 p.m., and eat breakfast after 7 a.m. Let your organs rest. Let your hormones recalibrate. Let your gut bacteria, yes, even they follow a circadian rhythm, repair themselves. This isn't restriction. This is liberation. You're not giving up food. You're reclaiming sleep. And here's the unexpected gift. Your dreams deepen. Your body feels lighter. Your energy in the morning stops needing caffeine to function. Isn't that the kind of freedom worth fighting for? 2. Replace the nightcap with a nervous system ritual. Alcohol feels like a shortcut to relaxation, but it's a counterfeit. It sedates, then rebounds, calms, then disrupts, and the price it extracts from your sleep architecture is profound. Instead, give your body what it actually needs: regulation. Try this. Brew a cup of chamomile, tulsi, or lemon balm tea, herbs proven to lower cortisol. Sit for 10 minutes with your feet flat on the ground, eyes closed. Do box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. This signals your vagus nerve, the master switch of your parasympathetic system, that you are safe, you are grounded, you are allowed to let go. The alcohol numbed your system. This trains it. And with each night, your heart starts to learn a new rhythm, one not shaped by sedation, but by sovereignty. 3. Tame the mind. Build a pre-sleep thought container. The thoughts aren't going away. The worries, the regrets, the stories you replay at night, they're loud because the world has finally gone quiet. So give them structure. Don't silence them. Hold them. 1 hour before bed, take out a journal. Write down 3 prompts. What am I holding on to today? What can I lay down for tonight? What truth do I want to sleep with? This act doesn't solve your problems. It relocates them. It moves them from the subconscious chaos of 2 a.m. to the organized clarity of the page. The brain loves containers, and once it knows you've made space for reflection, it no longer needs to ambush you with rumination. You're not ignoring your thoughts, you're honoring them, and then releasing them. 4. Reclaim darkness. Light is not neutral. It is instruction. When you expose your eyes to artificial light at night, especially blue light from phones and TVs, you are telling your brain, it's daytime, stay alert, delay melatonin. But your body is still wired for firelight and moonlight. So, create a sanctuary. Shut off overhead lights after 8 p.m. Use amber or red spectrum bulbs. Install blue light filters on all screens. Or better yet, avoid screens entirely an hour before bed. Go even further. Make your bedroom a temple of darkness. Blackout curtains, no nightlights, no standby LEDs. Make it so dark that your body forgets the electric world exists. Because only in darkness can melatonin rise fully. Only in darkness can your circadian rhythm remember what it was designed to do. You don't need a sleep pill. You need biological trust. 5. Replace sleep with dissent. Language matters. The word sleep has become clinical, passive, something you get, but your body doesn't fall asleep like a machine shutting off. It descends, it softens, it spirals downward through layers of awareness, emotion, sensation. Treat it like a ritual. Dim the light slowly, lower your voice, speak less, breathe deeper, move slower. Say a phrase to yourself each night as a signal. I am safe. I can let go now. This is what monks have practiced for centuries, warriors too. They don't treat rest as absence. They treat it as a return. So make your own descent. Choose a 15-minute sacred ritual that marks the boundary between wakefulness and rest. Because the body doesn't obey time, it obeys rhythm. And rhythm begins with repetition. Here's a paradox. Better sleep doesn't begin at bedtime. It begins in the morning. Expose your eyes to natural sunlight within 30 minutes of waking, even if it's cloudy. This anchors your circadian rhythm. It boosts morning cortisol at the right time so it can decline at night when it's supposed to. Your body doesn't sleep in a vacuum. It sleeps according to the signals you feed it all day long. The morning is the metronome, the conductor. And if you tune it properly, the symphony of your night will play itself. Now imagine going to bed, not to collapse, but to return, not to escape, but to descend into healing. You are not a machine that needs recharging. You are a soul that needs remembering. And the rebellion is not against aging. It's against the erosion of awareness. Because once you see the patterns, you're no longer their prisoner. Once you feel the difference, you no longer crave the old comfort. You begin to hunger not for sedation, but for depth. Not for escape, but for alignment. Not for routine, but for ritual. This is your birthright. This is your body. Still willing to listen, still ready to heal. All you have to do is return to it. Let's go deeper now. Not into habits, not into data, but into something older, something quieter. Let's return to that night. Edward, 71, lying in his bed, still peaceful on the surface. But his body had been struggling in silence for years, fighting the consequences of 1,000 invisible decisions. The snacks that numbed emotion, the nightcaps that mimicked rest, the screen glow that robbed his rhythm, the thoughts he could never quite silence. He died in his sleep. A phrase we often use as a kind of mercy, a gentle way to leave. But here's the question. Was he truly resting, or had he been dying in pieces long before? There's a paradox we must face. Most people are not afraid of death. They are afraid of dying before they die, of losing themselves slowly, imperceptibly, of becoming a ghost inside a living body. And that is exactly what happens when we abandon the sacredness of sleep. Not the clinical kind, the sacred kind. The kind that turns night into a holy descent. The kind that stitches soul back to self. You see, sleep is not just biological repair. It is metaphysical restoration. Each night, your consciousness folds inward. Your body goes still. Your ego dissolves. You enter a place where time doesn't move linearly, where images emerge without control, where healing is not commanded, but allowed. Sleep is the closest thing we experience to death, and also to rebirth. Every morning you resurrect, not just as a body, but as an identity, a self, and what kind of self you return as depends on how you let go. That's the truth no one told Edward, that the hours before sleep were not meaningless. They were sacred thresholds. But how could he have known? He, like many of us, was born into a culture that deified productivity and dismissed stillness. That told him aging was a slow fade, not a sovereign transformation. That told him comfort was a worthy substitute for connection. So he did what millions do. He followed the script. He numbed to sleep. He coasted into the night with a belly full of food, a heart full of restlessness, and a mind full of flickering images from screens that promised meaning but delivered only distraction. And the most tragic part? He never got to feel what deep sleep could really be. He never got to know what it felt like to wake up restored, not just rested. So here's the ultimate truth. The way you sleep is the way you live, and the way you live is the way you die. There is no separation. Your nights are not the ending of your days. They are the rehearsals for your rebirth. And how you treat those hours tells your body, your mind, and your soul exactly what to become next. You are either reinforcing decay or inviting transformation. You are either slipping deeper into unconscious repetition or stepping deliberately into conscious restoration. This is not just about avoiding an early death. This is about awakening to life. What if your body is wiser than you thought? What if the aches, the brain fog, the heaviness in your chest aren't signs of age, but signals of misalignment? What if all these so-called symptoms are messages? Your body isn't punishing you. It's whispering to you. It's saying, there's still time. There's still healing to be done, but you must listen differently now. And maybe that's the final rebellion, not just changing what you do before bed, but changing how you perceive it. Sleep isn't the absence of wakefulness. It's the womb of renewal, a sacred chamber where the physical and the spiritual meet in silence, where the body surrenders and the soul listens. And that means your sleep isn't just about your longevity. It's about your legacy, because the people who love you, your children, your grandchildren, your friends, they aren't just watching how long you live. They're watching how fully you live, how present you are, how vivid your memory stays, how much laughter you can still carry in your chest, how deep your presence feels in a room. And that's what dies first when sleep is sacrificed. Not the years on your calendar, but the vitality in your presence. So now, in this moment, you stand at a threshold, not of sleep, but of choice. You've seen the habits. You've uncovered the hidden damage. You've been handed the keys to the rebellion. Now comes the invitation, not to chase immortality, but to step into integrity, to live in such a way that when the day does come, when the final night falls, you don't go quietly from a life half-lived. You go as someone who returned to themselves fully, who listened, who honored the sacred, who made peace not just with death, but with rest. Because in the end, it was never about avoiding death. It was about reclaiming conscious descent, so that every night becomes a homecoming, every morning a resurrection, and every moment a chance to live, not longer, but truer. So ask yourself one last time, what kind of death are you preparing for each night? And what kind of life are you still willing to awaken into? The answers begin, not tomorrow, not in some program, but tonight, in the dark, in the quiet, in the stillness that's been waiting for you all along. Your bed is not a place of escape. It is your return. Choose to come back. And remember, if this video resonated with you, give it a like, subscribe for more insights on living your best retirement life, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.